Today, I'm gonna be reacting to his story. So you guys, this is the highest like growing subscribers channels right now. So let's react to him. First video.
My dad stood over my bed. You can skip school today if you come to work with me instead. 5-year-old me instantly jumped out of bed, even though I had no idea what my dad's job was. Yes, yes, yes. He passed me a ski mask, and I followed him to the car with no idea what to expect. We drove past houses, and I pointed at the boarded up windows. Where are we going, Daddy? He spoke through gritted teeth. Don't ask me any more questions, son. Beads of sweat came down my face, but I nodded because I didn't want my dad to be mad at me. He parked behind a house with cages on the windows, and when we got out, he pulled a huge black duffel bag out of the trunk. He hung the strap over my shoulder. I need you to knock and give this to them, son. I can't be seen here. This job's better for you anyway. My knees were trembling, and I didn't want to do it anymore. But before I could say anything, my dad was already watching from behind the corner, so I dragged the duffel bag up the stairs. When I knocked, the biggest man I'd ever seen opened the door. I waved. My daddy has this delivery for you. He's around the corner. He unzipped the bag without a word and stared inside. Is that it? My heart started pounding with adrenaline because he was staring at me with daggers in his eyes. He immediately grabbed his phone to dial 911, and I felt my dad's hand closed around my arm. Run, buddy, as fast as you can. Now! My dad was sprinting down the block, so I followed him while my ankles ached. Why are we running, Daddy? He didn't answer, and the sirens behind us kept getting louder. Ahead was an alley, skinny and dark. He stopped running. He turned around and ran towards me. I'm sorry, son. I love you. I want you to remember that grown-ups sometimes do bad things, but it's never their children's fault. I wanted to ask what he meant, but he ran down the alley as the cop cars pulled up. An officer held me tight with tears in his eyes. You shouldn't have had to go through that. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to know where my daddy was. My dad stood over my bed.
Bro, that was actually kind of sad.
My dad shook me awake at 4 a.m. on a school night, frantically telling me to get out of bed and come to the living room right now. I shot up still half asleep, but Dad was already bolting downstairs. I followed him, my heart pounding because this felt wrong. Dad sat me in a chair and pulled me to the TV. Mortal Kombat was loaded up.
Oh my, bro. I love this game. Mortal Kombat. I play this game like almost every day. I love that game.
Finally unlocked all the characters, son. I really want to play with you using them. He tossed me a controller with the widest grin and sat next to me, but I groaned because he'd made me believe something was wrong. I have school tomorrow, Dad. I need to sleep. I put the controller down and stood up, but then he put his hand on my shoulder. You're not going to school, kid. You're playing Mortal Kombat with me. My face lit up, and before I could respond, Dad pulled 2 pizza boxes and lemonade from behind the couch. So what do you say? School or fun with your dad? I instantly plopped down and grabbed my controller while he loaded up the game, smiling. I used every character he unlocked, and when the sun came up and the school bus drove by our house, me and Dad were still playing. The only danger around was having too much fun. My dad shook me awake at 4 a.m. on a school night. I was in class making my robotic arm clench a fist just by thinking about it, when the biggest bully in school snatched it off and held it out of reach. Cool toy, it's mine now. He looked at both my empty sleeves and smirked. What are you gonna do? Grab it with your nubs, loser. I stood up, shoved him until he dropped it, and clicked it back into place. It's not a toy. This is my arm. The recess bell rang, and his face twisted with anger. We'll finish this at recess. My stomach dropped, because I knew he meant it, but I wasn't letting him take it. I walked into recess with my fist clenched, ready for him. He came straight at me, ripped my arm off my shoulder, and when I reached for it with my nub, he slapped me with my own arm and shoved me into the dirt. You don't deserve this arm like I do. The whole playground laughed. He slid my arm onto his own and held it up. This is mine now. Nobody can beat me. And for the first time, I let his words get to me and felt defeated. But then he turned on the little kids, chasing them and grabbing them by the collar with my hand while they cried. When one boy tripped, the bully stood over him and raised my fist to hit him. So I got up and shoved him with my nubs. That's not yours. Leave him alone. The playground went silent because I had no hands and no way to fight him. He let the boy go, grabbed my collar, and pulled his fist back. Everyone waited for me to get destroyed, but I just smiled because he had no idea what he was holding. He swung my arm to punch me, but it yanked backward and stopped. He stared at it, confused. Why'd it do that? Obey me! Punch him! But I smiled harder because I control my arm with my thoughts. I clenched my nub, and my fist flew back and cracked him in his own nose. shoes. Then I made him slap himself, shove himself into the dirt, and grab his own collar. Exactly what he did to me. The whole playground erupted. The little kids he'd terrorized laughing the loudest. "Stop! You belong to me!" he cried, punching my arm as hard as he could to knock it off.
It
But
belongs
it's
to that
metal,
boy.
so he just shattered the
Give it
bones in
back.
his own hand and dropped to his knees, screaming. I calmly picked my arm up and clicked it back on. "You just got rocked by a kid with no hands, loser." I was in class making my robot.
Saunas are overrated.
The class clown tried to hypnotize the meanest teacher in school. "You're getting very sleepy." Mrs. Vaughn
What?
snatched the pendulum mid-swing. "One more word, and you're suspended." My eyes widened, because if he made another teacher quit too, he'd probably get expelled. But Dante turned to the class like he didn't even care. Should I tell her what happened yesterday when I hypnotized her? I had no idea what he was talking about, but kids all around me started nodding, and Mrs. Vaughn put her hands on her hips. "What are you talking about?" Dante smirked. "You knelt down and swore loyalty to me in front of everybody. You said I was a king." I pinched myself to stop myself from laughing, and I realized none of this ever happened. The whole class was just backing up his lie to break her. But then she pointed straight at me, because I was the only kid she actually trusted. "Tell them the truth." My heart started pounding with adrenaline, because if I lied, I'd get in trouble with Dante. But if I told the truth, the whole class would hate me. You bowed down to him, miss. You told him you'd do anything for him." Her face went red, but before she could scream at me, Dante took out his phone. "I have proof." He walked to the front of the class, took the black wire connected to the projector, and plugged it into his phone. On the big screen, we watched as Mrs. Vaughn got on her knees and actually bowed down to Dante. "You're my king, my lord. I would do anything for you." I was so shocked I couldn't even breathe, because I hadn't expected him to make an AI video just to annoy Mrs. Vaughn. The entire class was banging on their desks, laughing. Mrs. Vaughn instantly grabbed the wall phone to call the principal. My entire body tensed up because I thought we were all going to be suspended. And when the principal walked in, Mrs. Vaughn pointed a shaking hand at the projector. Look what Dante made. He's destroying my reputation with lies." I held my breath, but the principal took one look at Dante and went pale. He leaned into her ear to whisper, and the room was so quiet, we heard every word. "I fought him last year about this, and the board didn't do anything because they couldn't prove the video was fake. Just say you remember. It's easier." I gasped, because even the principal couldn't save her, because Dante had gotten to him too. Mrs. Vaughn looked around, and Dante snapped his fingers. "And you're awake from my hypnotic spell."
Just
She
say you
closed her
remember.
eyes and said it through her teeth. "Welcome back, my lord." The class clown tried to hypnotize the meanest teacher. I got an emergency call that a robbery was in progress, so I rushed over to the store, my hands on my holster. The owner immediately pointed at the homeless man sitting on the floor
Shoot
in the
that
corner
boy.
of his store. "That filthy beggar was robbing me," he spat. "Arrest him." I walked towards the man and noticed the scrunched up bouquet of flowers in his lap. I asked him if he'd really been stealing, and he looked up. "It's my wife's birthday. She's homeless out here with me, and I had no money to get her flowers." My chest tightened because his entire face was bruised, but the owner was already leaning over my shoulder. He reached down and snatched the flowers out of the man's lap. "Here's what I think of your wife." He spat on the bouquet and dropped it onto the floor. I was shocked, but the homeless man instantly pushed himself up to his feet. "Don't you ever talk about my wife." The owner spun to me instantly, pointing. "See? He's aggressive. He just threatened me. Arrest him right now." I realized the situation
You
was
insulted him
escalating,
first.
so I put a hand up and told everyone to calm down, but the owner was starting to get on my nerves. I asked the man how he got the bruises on his face, and the owner smirked. "That was me. I made sure to really hit hard when I saw this piece of filth stealing." He said it proudly, and because I was homeless once, I'd reached my limit. "So you assaulted him. That's a crime, and you're under arrest." His face dropped as I reached for my cuffs. He shoved me back hard. "You're not arresting me. Arrest him and his wife for existing around me." But I closed the gap and grabbed his wrist. "I'll charge you for assault of an officer too if you're not careful." The homeless man put his hand on my shoulder. Nobody's ever taken my side before. I nodded and walked the owner out while he cursed at us. But as I shoved
saw
him
you
into
got
my
to me.
cruiser, I saw the
Handing
homeless
wood.
man handing the flowers to his wife on the corner, and beside them, there was a homeless little girl, mouthing, "Happy birthday, mommy." My heart genuinely shattered, so I decided to go buy them a birthday cake out of the owner's wallet. He watched helplessly, red in the face as I handed it to them.
I'm going to be reacting to her story with Tom at Blocks 8. Yo, Tom, say what's up. Huh?
Yo,
Yo, look at the video started. Let me put this.
go to
Yeah. Let's start.
popular.
My son wheeled through the door, throwing
Yeah.
gang signs, wearing all
Let me go to our most popular videos. Popular. This one. I've watched this one before.
I was walking alone at night when a police officer started walking beside me and grabbed my arm. Don't react and keep walking. Someone's following you. I subtly turned around and saw a man in a dark hood 30 feet behind me, matching my pace. I stopped for a second and he instantly leaned against the wall, trying to seem discreet. The officer told me to stay calm and walk with him. He guided me forward, gripping my arm so tight I couldn't pull away
Wait.
even if I wanted to. I
If it was
kept
a police
glancing back
officer,
and the man was now closer.
think
That's
of
when he
I
walked
arrest the
through a
other guy.
street light and the light shined down on something metallic sticking from his pocket. My whole body was hurt. I pressed closer to the officer and told him what I saw. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, we'll get you home. You're safe with me." But then he started steering us away from the lit up main road and onto a darker sidewalk, almost like he was leading me
the
somewhere
police did
specific.
everything.
That, plus his grip on my arm made me feel uneasy. But when I turned around, the man was now walking straight at me, holding the metallic object and no longer trying to be discreet. I knew I had no choice but to trust the officer. I told him the man was closer, and he looked around, pointing to an alleyway nearby. This cuts through to the other side of the street.
Yeah,
Cab from there. He gripped my arm even
He's a
tighter. and
defo
pulled me.
fake.
I was about to just go with it,
Bro,
but
the
then I
police
saw a
did
taxi
fake.
sitting 50 feet in front of me with its light on. I told the officer, "I'll just take this one," but his grip tightened. The man is still too close and the alleyway is safer. He tried pulling me again, but I yanked my arm free and sprinted to the cab. He reached for me again, but I was too far away.
Run.
I got in and
Yeah,
locked the
he's
door,
a
shaking
fake.
and unsure what to
He's
even
a
think.
fake.
Then 3 weeks later, I was
That's
watching the
fake.
morning news, and my coffee slipped
They
out of
got
my
arrested.
hands. 2 men were arrested for the murder of a woman. The officer who grabbed my arm and the man in the hood. They worked together. The man followed her at night, and the officer lured her into an alleyway under the guise of safety. The woman who trusted the officer never came home to her kids. I was walking alone at night when a police officer started walking
That's so
beside me
sad.
and grabbed my arm. Don't react and keep walking. We were sitting in the living room watching Shark Tank when my daughter looked at me and said, Mommy, I'm going to be the youngest CEO in the whole neighborhood." The next weekend, she set up a lemonade stand, but instead of mixing regular country time lemonade like every other kid, she came up with a
Why
bright
is it
idea. She spent the morning in our kitchen, mixing what she called gourmet
Bro,
flavors,
why
watermelon
is it
mint,
purple?
strawberry basil, and something she called lavender honey that actually tasted incredible. She printed labels
Green
from her
and
home
red
printer
don't
and charged
not
50
make
cents more per
purple.
cup than every other kid on the block. Our neighbor, Mrs. Haggerty, was having a yard sale that weekend. Mia knocked on her door and offered her 10% of her profits to set up in front of her driveway for the foot traffic. She was out there at 7 in the morning with a painted sign and little sample cups for people to try before they
No.
bought. She sold out by
That's actually
noon.
not all
Saturday
of
afternoon,
these.
she recruited 2 neighborhood kids and gave them matching visors.
business.
She trained them on how to greet
Good
customers
business.
and how to make change.
Carry
By
on.
Sunday morning,
Starting
she was
a
running a
business,
3-person
bro.
operation from our front yard. That's when the man in the BMW
Maybe
pulled
I
up.
might
He
start
looked at
my
the stand
business,
and
you know.
said he only had Apple Pay.
Like,
Mia
kid,
reached
that's
under the
cool.
table and pulled out her dad's
Maybe.
foldable card reader.
Looks
She
like-
held it up to him and said, "No problem, sir. You can swipe, tap, or contactless. No excuses." His mouth dropped open while a 9-year-old processed his credit card for $3 worth of lemonade. An hour later, a kid 3 houses down set up his own stand. Mia walked over with
Why
the
you
biggest
copying
smile
her?
and said, "Hey, Noah, want to merge? We'd cover way more customers together." Intimidated by her professional setup, he agreed immediately. Within an hour, she'd absorbed his whole operation and put him in charge of what she called their satellite location. By the end of the weekend, she counted everything out on the kitchen table. $217. She looked at her dad and said, "I just made more money than your Starbucks habit costs you in a week." Then she pulled out a notebook and started
that
flipping
supposed
through
to be a
pages of
role?
profit
That's a
margins and
violation.
expense tracking for every flavor. I asked her where she learned about profit margins. She looked at me like it was the most obvious thing in the world. YouTube, Mom. There's tutorials for everything. We were sitting in the living room watching Shark Tank
That's
when my
for
daughter
me.
looked. This boy was trolling on the dark web when her sister noticed he slammed his laptop shut. He
No,
was
guys,
shivering, and she
that
knew
means
something was
not go
wrong.
on the
Scared,
dark
he immediately
web.
ran to the living
No.
room. She
Yes,
yelled,
yeah.
"What happened?" But he
I've
wouldn't
seen
say
it before.
anything. He started freaking
Don't
out,
go on the
closing
dark
all
web.
of their blinds, locking
Don't
the
was
front
banging
door,
on them.
and she begged
Really
him to tell
bad.
her what was going on. He was freaking out, and that's when she opened his laptop. She couldn't believe it. Someone sent him a picture of their front door. They sent another picture, and when she clicked on it, it was a picture of her through their window that said, "She looks tasty." She couldn't breathe. She was about to
What
run
the
and grab their
heck?
dad, but her brother grabbed her arm saying, "No, he'll kill me if he knew I was on there." Neither of them slept that night until someone rang the doorbell the next
Oh,
morning. A
with
guy
that
with a badge told their
situation,
dad they
guys,
saw
you
some
have to
suspicious
tell
activity coming from
Fake
their network,
police.
but he told him he
Fake
didn't know
police.
anything
Fake
about it.
police.
He told them to
I
stay
have to
safe,
tell
but the next
them.
day in class, her principal burst through their door. She told her she had to come with her that second
Fake
and that the
pol-
police
fake
were there, and
principal.
she followed her to the
Fake
office thinking
principal.
it had to be her brother. But the second she walked in,
Fake.
she saw the same guy from yesterday holding his
No,
badge.
it's not
He
fake
smiled when he saw
principal,
her
it's the
and told her
fake
there was an
police.
emergency at her house. He grabbed her arm and tried to
Real
pull her out, but she
principal, fake
resisted.
police.
"No, tell me what happened. Is my brother okay?" But he didn't say anything. "Come with us." She didn't want to, but her principal nodded and said, "They're police officers,
No,
honey.
no,
Go with them." They
fake.
took her outside, but she noticed their car didn't have any police stickers on it. She thought
It's
these guys
fake.
would just be undercover. But when they put her in the back,
How
she
do you
immediately
think
noticed
the
there weren't
police
any door
officers
handles either.
undercover?
There was no way she could get out. "Where are we going?"
she's
But they
gone.
laughed. She was sweating now. "Please,
gonna
I just want
die.
to see my brother." But they
He's
didn't
gone.
say anything until they saw flashing lights lights behind them. Both of the guys immediately got nervous.
Yes,
And when she
police.
realized it was the police, she knew this was her chance. The
the
cop was
car,
walking up to the
get
car,
off.
and she was about to scream for help, but just before she did, she felt something sharp in her stomach. She looked down
scared of
and
this
saw
car.
the man
Oh my
holding a knife
God.
against her. The cop
I
walked
hate
up
this
and
car.
looked inside the car, and when he saw her crying, he looked suspicious. She tried anything she could to signal for help, but the man said, "That's just my niece. She's upset because we didn't get McDonald's."
Oh
She
my
couldn't say
God.
anything. The knife was already cutting her
You're such
skin,
a
and the
liar.
cop just told them to have a good
Oh
day.
my God.
She was crying, but they drove off. She accepted her life was over. She wasn't ever going to see her family again until they started arguing. He
What?
saw our faces, man. If we kill her, they're going to know it was us. So in that moment, they opened the door and threw her out, and she had to run back with her hands tied. This boy was trolling on the dark web when her sister noticed he
Smart glasses
Guys,
are
you
actually going
don't
to change
troll on the dark web.
This is
the
why
entire world because
you
you
don't go on the dark
I was
web.
eating goldfish on the bleachers when two fourth graders asked my teacher if they could play kickball, and she stepped back and threw her hands up. "Don't ask me, ask the king." They both turned around and walked toward me shaking. They were 2 grades older
Obviously
than
a
me
king,
and a foot
which is
taller.
a
They
dog.
stopped at the bottom of the bleachers with their eyes glued to their shoes. Can we please play kickball at recess?" I took my time finishing the goldfish in my mouth. I wiped the orange dust off my fingers onto my jeans. Tell me why. They both forced their eyes up to meet mine. The shorter one mumbled it was his birthday. I flicked my fingers like I was swatting flies. "Have fun." They thanked me 4 times each before sprinting off. I reached into my bag for another handful of goldfish. A minute later, Mrs. Gibbons walked over with her hands clasped together. "Sorry to bother you, sweetie king. There's a 3rd grader telling kids they can't use the swing stick." I told her to bring him to me. She nodded and walked off to find him. That's when a teacher I'd never seen before stormed across the yard, pointing straight at me. "What in the world is going on here? Why are these children acting like you're in charge?" Mrs. Gibbons sprinted back over and grabbed his elbow. Stop talking right now." The new teacher yanked his arm away and turned back to me. "I am not letting a 2nd grader run this playground." He marched up the bleachers and grabbed my wrist. "You're coming with me to the principal's office right now." Before he could pull me down, 2 men in black
think she
suits
has
came running
bodyguards?
across the yard. They slammed him into the
Knew
grass
it,
and
knew
pinned his
it.
hand behind his back without saying a word. I
Yo,
climbed down from the
how did
bleachers
you
and
not-
crouched next to his ear. "Don't you
Leave
ever
a like.
disrespect me again." He
Get
dropped
her
the
from
goldfish
that.
into his mouth,
They
stood up,
literally
and walked off.
dragged
That's when
him
the principal
from
came
the
running out of
stand
the building. He took
onto
one look
the
and dropped to his knees. "Please forgive us, Miss
Literal
Sweetie
head
King.
hit
Mr.
the-
Dealwood will be fired by the end of the day." I kept walking past him without a word, munching on goldfish. The principal slapped Mr. Dealwood in the back of the head. "You idiot! Her family runs the entire underground crime scene." I was eating goldfish on the bleachers when 2 fourth graders asked. During my daughter's birthday party, I saw a woman named Janet pick up one of my daughter's wrapped gifts from the present table. She looked around to
What
see
is
if
that?
nobody was watching and put the bracelet-shaped present in her purse. I realized she was stealing my daughter's birthday presents and ran over and told her to immediately put that back. Her face went red and she said, "But my daughter wants a bracelet." I pointed at the bracelet on her wrist and told her to give her daughter that one. But Janet scoffed and replied, "This bracelet was too expensive. Kids don't deserve nice things." She walked away with the present still in her purse, and I ran after her. I said she can either put the gift back where she got it, or she gives me her own bracelet instead, or else I'm telling everyone here she's stealing an 8-year-old's birthday presents. Janet's jaw clenched, and she pulled out $20 from her purse, trying to bargain with me. I told her no, the present or the bracelet. She rolled her eyes and turned around, then quickly grabbed her daughter and went to leave. I knew I had to act before she got away with stealing the present, so I grabbed the nearby microphone and immediately announced, "Janet stole one of my daughter's gifts. Open your purse, Janet." She was
That's her
almost at the front
daughter.
door, but suddenly stopped. Everybody turned to stare at her, and her daughter asked, "Mommy, is that true?" Janet's hands shook as she opened her purse, and everyone saw the bracelet-shaped wrapping. Janet was red with embarrassment and told her daughter, "I was only taking it for you." But her daughter reached her hand out and yanked Janet's expensive bracelet off Janet's wrist. She walked over to my daughter and said, "My mom tried to steal your bracelet, so you get to have hers. That's fair." I looked back and saw Janet start crying because she just lost her precious
that's
bracelet to the girl she was
actually
trying to
so
steal
sad.
from.
Deserved.
During my
Well
daughter's
deserved.
birthday party,
Well
I saw a woman
WG.
named Janet pick up
Well
one of my
deserved.
daughter's
You
wrapped
said
gift
it right-
from the
right
present
there,
table.
Tom.
She looked around to see
That's
How
well
can you
deserved.
get Robux in
I was pushing my baby on the swings when an old woman walked up to us and said, "Such a beautiful baby. May I see his shoulder?" I immediately pulled my son
No,
off
she
the
was
swing and
stealing your
backed away.
baby.
As we left, I heard her whisper, "The birthmark.
How could
I need to see if he has the
Yeah,
birthmark."
baby
2 weeks
shoulder.
later, she was parked in front
You
of our
might be her
building,
mother.
hunched over her steering wheel crying. When she saw me notice her, she drove away quickly. I held my baby extra tight that night and decided to take him to a smaller park 6 blocks away, just to be safe. But she showed up there too, this time with a teddy bear. The tag was still on it, but it looked old like it had been saved for decades. I grabbed my son out of the swing and yelled, "Leave us alone!" But she latched onto my shoulder and said, "Please, I just need to know about the birthmark. Does he have a star-shaped mark on his left shoulder?" I yanked her hand off and threatened to call the police. She backed off but followed us home at a distance, repeating, "My son had the same mark. Please just tell me." The next time she was at the park, a woman was with her saying, "Mom, you have to stop this. It's been 40 years. James is gone." The older woman broke down completely. "He's not gone. If I could just see the birthmark, I'd know." That's when I'd had enough. I marched over with my baby in my arms but froze when I saw her holding holding an old picture of a baby that somehow looked exactly like mine. What's going on? Who is that? I freaked out. The old woman said, "This is my son James. My ex-husband kidnapped him when he was a baby." Then she pointed at my son's shoulder. James had a perfect star right there.
Really,
Tell
bro,
me, does your son have it too?
a
She looked so
baby for
desperate
what
and broken
reason?
that I finally answered her. I pulled my son's sleeve back to show her the star-shaped birthmark on his left shoulder. The old woman's legs gave out. Her daughter caught her as she sobbed uncontrollably. "My husband has the same birthmark," I said, "and he's adopted." The old woman looked at me and whispered, "What's your husband's name?" "James." I was pushing my baby on the swings when an old woman walked
No
up to us.
way!
Such a beautiful baby. May I see his
Touching
shoulder?
memories.
I immediately pulled my son off the. My daughter asked me, "Mom, can I dye my hair blonde?" I knocked my chair back so hard it hit the wall. "What did you just say to
have
me?"
blonde
Juliet
hair.
flinched. "I just asked if I could dye my.
Black.
No, stop.
You-
Something is wrong with you. You told your aunt she
Any
looked
girl.
like a burnt corn husk for going blonde. You told a girl her hair looked like it was dipped in piss. And now you want to be blonde?" She started crying. "Why are you screaming at me? It's literally just a
I've seen
color." I should have felt guilty, but I knew something was seriously wrong with my daughter. The next morning, Juliet walked into the kitchen
seen
asking me to make her scrambled eggs.
So
I
I
spat
think
out
she's
my water because
possessed.
Juliet has gagged at eggs her entire life. I made them anyway because I needed to watch her eat them. She ate every single bite. "Thanks, Mom. These were really good." I called my best friend for help. She said I was spiraling. My mom told me to stop smothering Juliet. Her father just said, "Relax." Nobody was listening to me, but I wasn't wrong. Because before she went to bed, she said, "Good night,
Hungry,
Petra."
bro.
She saw my horrified face and bonked her head. "Sorry, Mom. I meant Mom." Juliet had never called me Mom before. That weekend, we went to the mall because I needed to do something normal with her. But then she stopped in
What?
front of a mirror and said, "I really think I'd look good blonde." I grabbed her by the shoulders and turned her around to face me. "Why do you keep saying that? You have hated
No.
blonde hair your entire life.
She
What is
didn't even
happening to
turn
you?"
her.
Juliet shoved me off. "Why can't I just
Just
want something
possessed.
different without you completely losing it?"
You did
"Because you're not
possess
my
it.
daughter. Why won't anybody believe me?" I was
her
crying.
hand
now.
on
Juliet
air,
was backing
then
away
she
from me.
moved.
Then a man walked over and said he was a psychiatrist and could help. The psychiatrist asked, "Juliet, do you have gaps in your memory?" She looked scared. "Sometimes I'm at school and then I'm home and I don't remember the drive." He recorded the session and then played parts of it back for her. She watched in horror. "That's not me. I didn't say that. That was 11 minutes ago, Juliet." He sat back in his chair. "Juliet, what I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to hear, but I need you to listen." She was shaking. "You have something called dissociative identity disorder. The blonde hair, the eggs, calling your mother Petra. That wasn't you, Juliet. There is someone else in your mind, and when she comes forward, you don't remember any of it." Juliet looked terrified. Juliet started treatment that same month. The alter's name is Eloise. She likes scrambled eggs and calls me Petra. Juliet still hates blonde hair. Eloise still asks to diet. Some mornings I can tell who I'm talking to before she even opens her mouth. My daughter asked me, "Mom,
Wow.
can I dye my hair?"
Bro, now she's not about to do it anymore.
Technically, she has two. No, she
Keep
has.
smiling or you're sleeping
half
outside
a
tonight,
brain,
my mom
half a
said while
brain.
someone from Child Protective Services knocked on our front door. We'd been filming our morning routine for the 13th time because I kept blinking wrong. My face ached from holding the same smile since 6 a.m.
She looks
and the
shocked
ringlets
as
had
heck.
burned fresh marks up both my arms. My mom yanked my sleeves down over the burns before she opened the door. My dad grabbed my school workbook off the counter and shoved it under the couch. The woman at the door held up a badge and introduced herself as Melinda. "A viewer sent us screenshots of bruises and burns on your daughter from your recent videos." My mom walked around behind Melinda where only I could see her face twist into a silent threat. I smiled with all my teeth showing. Everything was
Bro,
amazing here.
she
I
was
love
supposed
making
to
videos
smile.
with my parents every single day. Melinda
I know
swiped to
she
a
is.
photo on her tablet and held it up. "Then why do you have a black
That's
eye covered
all
with
she
makeup
can
in this
say, I'm
video
pretty
from
sure.
last week?" I hit a doorknob because I'm
Someone
clumsy, and my
punching
mom
her.
helped me cover it so viewers wouldn't worry. Melinda looked at me
face.
and back at my parents.
She looks
"She's 10.
like
Why isn't she in school right
it
now?"
smiles
My mom
every
cut in
single
fast.
second
"She doesn't
of
need
her
school.
life.
She makes more money than most adults. Show me her
They
school."
force her
My mom
to.
just stared at her. "We don't waste time on books when she could
Zero.
be filming." Melinda stood up
Zero.
straight. "I need to speak with your daughter alone."
You
My
can
dad
get
stepped forward,
arrested
but
for
Melinda
not
held up
taking
her
your
badge.
children to
"Refuse and
school.
I call the police. Your choice." They went into the kitchen but left the door cracked open. Melinda put a piece of paper in my hands. "Read this out loud for me." I stared at the page for a long time and just held it up and smiled. "I love reading." She put a pen in my hand. "Write your name for me." My hand hovered over the paper, but I couldn't remember how to spell it. "Everything is perfect," I whispered, and my eyes went to the cracked door. Melinda leaned in close enough that only I could hear. "I'm
She
getting
does
them out of
not
this
know
room."
how
She
to
stood up and
write
opened the
or
kitchen door.
talk.
"Leave this house completely, or I
She
call for
can
backup
talk
right now."
much.
My dad slammed the
doesn't
front
know
door on
it.
his way out.
You
She
can
sat back
dish
down
that
and looked at
much.
me. "Where do you sleep?" My jaw ached from smiling all day, and my eyes burned. "In the basement." I walked her downstairs to a concrete floor with 2 thin blankets and no pillow. Melinda photographed everything and rolled my sleeves up and looked at the burns running up both arms. "How did these happen?" "The lights get really hot during filming." She went straight to my parents and pulled out her phone. "Your daughter can't read. She can't write her name. She's covered in burns and she sleeps on concrete. I am removing her from your care chair right now. My dad gripped the doorframe. This kid is our property, and we own everything she makes. Melinda held the phone closer to his face. 2 officers showed up 20 minutes later, and my aunt was right behind them. She knelt down in front of me and wrapped both arms around my shoulders. You never have to smile for a camera again. Keep smiling or you're sleeping outside tonight. When the doctor said they could
that's
finally
crazy.
separate me and my conjoined twin, only one of us was happy. For
How?
10 years, me and Vanessa shared one brush, but we made it work. When we brushed our teeth in front of the mirror, I would brush and she would floss. When we
It's
painted our
actually sad.
nails, I'd do the hands and she'd do the feet. But when our parents finally saved enough money to have us separated, I thought we'd both be celebrating. But that night, Vanessa turned to me. I don't want us to go through with this. I can't live without you. I stroked my own hand to comfort her because I knew she could feel it. It's okay. The surgery will go fine. She didn't say anything, and I shrugged because I thought she'd come to her senses. And the next morning, while the doctors injected anesthesia into our arms and we counted back from 10, my heart was beating with adrenaline because I couldn't wait to have a life that was finally mine. But when we both woke up 8 hours later, I felt her moving, and I screamed in horror. The surgeon stood at the end of the bed. Don't worry, we didn't go through with it. Your sister told us you'd both changed your minds. She said neither of you wanted to be apart. I was so horrified the room started spinning. She'd sabotaged my one chance at freedom. I never said that. I wanted this more than anything. Vanessa was already crying. I told you I can't live without you. I started hyperventilating because I knew my sister was going to do everything she could to keep us stuck together forever. My eyes
Bro,
darted around the room,
that's
desperately
true
looking
love.
for a solution. And that's
True,
when I spotted a
true
bag of
love.
peanuts someone had left on the edge of the bed. While Vanessa cried and no one was looking, I instantly grabbed a handful and immediately shoved it into my mouth. The allergic reaction started immediately, and I breathed a sigh of relief because I knew now they would be forced to do the surgery. I lied. My heart is failing. It hurts. I think it's cardiac arrest. Me and Vanessa's throats both started closing. I could feel her squeezing her own hand so hard it drew blood to punish me, but I didn't care anymore. The monitors went off all at once. We need to go through with this. They could die. This time, before Vanessa could say anything, they started injecting the anesthesia again. I woke up 8 hours later to 1 heartbeat on the monitor instead of 2. My one hand covered my mouth as I gasped because for the first time I was free. But I was immediately confused because Vanessa wasn't there. We were able to save both of you, but Vanessa woke up from the surgery first. And when she saw she was separated from you, she plugged out the health monitor on herself. We found out too late. I'm sorry. She always said she couldn't live without me. Turns out she was right. When the doctors said they could finally separate me and my conjoined